prosecutions under the FACE Act for that violence and threats.
Well, thank you, and thank you for your indulgence. With that, I yield back.
I thank the gentlelady. I'll now recognize the gentlelady from Vermont for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank the witnesses for being here today. I know you're all very busy people. Before I get to my statement on the topic at hand, I have to start by saying, words absolutely matter. And Mr. Compton, earlier, you likened the FBI to the Gestapo, to Nazis. And that kind of rhetoric is not actually helpful in this debate. The Gestapo operated without any civil restraints. Its actions were not subject to judicial appeal. Thousands of citizens, including Jews, trade unionists, political clergy, and others, simply disappeared into concentration camps, one of those being my grandfather. The political arm of the Gestapo could order prisoners to be maimed, tortured, murdered. There was no legal process. And the Gestapo, under Adolf Eichmann, organized the deportation of millions and millions of Jews to concentration camps. Now, I understand that you feel passionately about this issue. I do, I understand that. But your use of the word Gestapo is inappropriate, it's offensive, and it's uneducated. And I urge you, as you continue your work, to cease using this terminology. Because I think what we're trying to do here is actually elicit testimony that is helpful to get us to a better place. And I don't think that that is helping. Professor Waters, if the Justice Department were to stop enforcing the FACE Act, or if it were no longer law, could you describe for people, because that's really what these hearings are about, describe for people what effect that would have on access to abortion care and other reproductive rights?
I think it is important to note that if the FACE Act were no longer enforced, many of the institutions and many of the organizations that the colleagues to the left of me have described, they would also be at risk, right? I don't quite understand the argument that we think that the DOJ and the FBI should be doing more to protect pro-life centers, but at the same time, we should repeal FACE.
Agreed.
Doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
This confuses me too.
Yeah, and I do think, but the record is also very clear that we have seen a campaign of coordinated violence and blockades against centers and providers of reproductive health care, including abortion. And without these federal protections, that would only increase. I also think it's really important that we are precise in how we talk about FACE's protections. And FACE very clearly does not reach peaceful protest outside of clinics that does not interfere with passage into that clinic. That is not covered under FACE. In fact, it is explicitly excluded.
Can you say that again? Please, honestly, this is like the crux of it for me.
It's an important point. Congress was very deliberate in carving out pure expressive activity from FACE's purview. So some of the activities that have been described here, like peacefully protesting outside of a clinic, and even having signs that may be inflammatory, as much as we may abhor that speech, the First Amendment likely protects that. And it's important to distinguish between what FACE does and protections under the First Amendment.
So it is the blocking of the entrance, it is making it difficult to get the care that they are entitled to.
It is violence, it is destruction of property, it is blocking of entrances that is prohibited by FACE. FACE does not prohibit expressive speech.
And from your perspective, are clinic obstructions, even if they don't lead to threats of violence, like, of course, we want to avoid violence, are they related to negative health outcomes? Have we seen increased mortality since Dobbs was overturned?
We have seen increased both maternal mortality rates and infant mortality rates. And probably not surprisingly, those are going up very quickly in states that are most restrictive of abortion care.
I thank you. I yield back.